The Ringing Cedars, Series 19, Anastasia, Book 1, Vladimir Megre. Anastasia adapted her morning preparations to the conditions on the land of the summer house. In the morning, preferably at sunrise, you should go barefoot to the land to access the plants we want. We can touch them. This should not be done according to some pattern or the same ritual that we repeat every day, but as we wish, as the desire arises. But this should be done before washing. Then the plants will smell the substances that are released from the body during sleep through the pores of the skin. If it is warm and if we are next to at least a small part of the land with a grassy surface, and it needs to be like that, we should lie down on it and stretch for 3 or 4 minutes. If an insect starts crawling on the body, it should not be chased away. Many insects open the pores on the human body, purifying them. The pores through which poisons are released are mostly blocked, which release various internal sores on the surface of the skin and enable a person to get rid of them. If there is some kind of pool with water on the land, you should bathe in it. And if there is none, then we can pour water on ourselves. At the same time, you should stand barefoot not far from the beds and plants, even better, between the beds or, for example, one morning, next to the raspberry bushes, the next currants, etc. After watering, you should not wipe yourself immediately. Drops of water should be shaken off with the palm of the hand, as if spilling them on the surrounding vegetation. Drops of water from other parts of the body should also be shaken off with the hands. After that, the usual washing procedure can be done. The juice of wild cypress and nettle will be good for this. In the evening, before going to bed, you must wash your feet, using water with the addition of a small amount, a few drops, of wild cypress or nettle juice. It can do both at the same time, without using soap or shampoo. The water in which we washed our feet should be poured onto the beds. After which, if there is a need, you can wash your feet with soap. This procedure in the evening is important for 2 reasons. Poisons come out through the sweat of the feet, drawing out its internal diseases from the body, so it is necessary to wash them in order not to clean the pores. By pouring water on the beds, you transmit additional information to the microorganisms and plants about how you feel today. That is very important. By receiving just this notification, the visible and invisible world that surrounds you can create, choosing from the universe and from the earth everything that is necessary for the normal functioning of your organism. I was also interested to find out what she would say about nutrition. Anastasia, tell me how in your opinion a person should eat, what should be eaten, when, how many times a day, how much. We pay considerable attention to this matter. It is difficult to imagine the way of life of man in the conditions set by the world of technocracy. Dark forces are always trying to replace the natural mechanism of this world, which is in harmony with nature and given to man from the beginning, with its cumbersome artificial system, contradicting human nature. You realize that to your questions, what, when, how much should a person eat? No one else can answer better than the very organism of each particular man. The feeling of hunger and thirst exists to give a signal to every human being when to use food. This very moment will be the most useful for everyone. The world of technocracy cannot allow a person to satisfy the feeling of hunger and thirst at the moment when his organism asks for it, so it then began to force a person into a pattern, conditioned by his helplessness, also finding justification for him in some kind of expediency. A person should eat when his organism tells him to, and there is no other advisor. I understand that this is almost not achievable in the conditions of your reality. But for people who are on their land, near their homes, such a possibility exists, and it should be used and unnatural artificial mechanisms should be abandoned. If you have any small animals in your home, chicken, dog, observe them carefully. They occasionally choose a certain type of grass from different grasses and eat it. At least a few such blades of grass should be picked and added to the dish. It is not at all necessary to do this every day. 2 or 3 times a week is enough. It is also necessary to gather ears of grain, thresh them, grind them finely, make flour and bake bread. This is unusually important. A man who only eats this kind of bread once or twice a year. He gets energy supplies that can activate his inner mental potentials and have a positive effect on his physical condition and calm his soul. This bread can also be given to your relatives. Simply, dear people. It will also have a very beneficial effect on them if it is given sincerely, with goodwill. It is very beneficial for the health of every person if at least once in the summer, for 3 days, he takes only what grows on his land. Using as an addition bread, sunflower oil and a minimum amount of salt. I have already talked about how Anastasia is fed. Well, even during her story, she somehow involuntarily picked one, then another blade of grass, started chewing it herself, and gave it to me as well. I also decided to try it. Her taste did not leave an impression, but it did not cause a feeling of repulsion either. The process of feeding and keeping Anastasia's organism alive is somehow entrusted to nature and will never keep her thoughts, which deal with other problems. Among other things, her health is an inseparable part of her wonderful external beauty. According to Anastasia, the organism of a person who has established such relations with the plant world and the earth on his land can be completely freed from all diseases. Illness in itself is an act by which man distances himself from the mechanisms of nature, which are called upon to preserve his health and keep him alive. And for them, these mechanisms, fighting any disease does not present any problems, because that is the essence of their existence. The well-being that can be had by a person who has established a relationship through the exchange of information, and has become closer to a small part of the natural world, is much greater than the struggle with an illness. There should always be fruits and vegetables from your garden on the table, and when you get hungry, take the fruit that your body wants.